Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. St. Elizabeth teacher murdered in front of colleagues. I retreat. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. We begin this afternoon with the brazen daylight killing of a teacher in front of her colleagues and students at the Sandybank Basic School in Treasure Beach, St. Elizabeth. The woman was shot dead this morning by two men as she approached the school gate. Cody and Barrett has more.
Students and teachers at the Sandybank Basic School in Treasure Beach, St. Elizabeth, have been left shocked and traumatized following the shooting death of an educator. She has been identified as 26-year-old Chanel Smith. It's reported that Miss Smith, who was from the Sandybank community, arrived at the school about 7:50. Two men dressed in hooded sweaters and masks were parked at the gate pretending to be repairing their motorcycle. Eyewitnesses say one of the men pulled a firearm and shot Miss Smith as she approached the gate. Miss Smith's killing has left the Sandybank community in shock.
Humble little girl. No, she don't really trouble nobody. She's almost a house person. She don't go anywhere. She come to school, go back home. Most times she walk in her head down. That's how she is. She will tell you her howdy, and that's about it. She's a nice young girl. It was just Friday night we were at the church and we have a grand time because we had you. She's a friendly girl.
So how do you feel about this and the community feel about it?
We're all saddened about this because to know that she's not a troublemaker and you hear of this drastic thing that happened, it hurts. It really hurts.
Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the suspect in yesterday's fatal shooting of 6-year-old Timoral McCollum on Tex Lane in central Kingston is in hospital under police guard. Police say the 55-year-old man returned to the community sometime after 9 o'clock last night. He was set upon by residents who inflicted serious injuries. Senior communications strategist for the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Dennis Brooks, told our news center that the suspect was rescued by the police.
Beaten and chopped by residents in the community. The police came and took him to a nearby medical facility where he continues to be receiving treatment under police guard.
Mr. Brooks says the police believe the suspect was assisted by residents in leaving the community after the shooting. The illegal firearm has not been recovered. Police say the suspect may have been repairing the gun when it went off.
Preliminarily is that he's a self-taught gunsmith who has lived in the area for many years. He's known to members of the community. He was, again, our information is that he was effecting repairs to a firearm when it went off and shot the young child.
Timoral would have celebrated her 7th birthday on December 27. 3 police officers assigned to the Kingston Central lockup have been interdicted in relation to last week's escape of 27-year-old Orville Purnell. Mr. Purnell, a high-risk prisoner, was awaiting extradition to St. Lucia. The JCF says a criminal investigation has also been launched into the incident. Additionally, 8 other JCF members have been placed on interdiction in relation to 2 other cases of escape that occurred in 2021. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says while due process will be followed, there must be consequences for the recent escape of detainees. Since the start of the year, there have been 8 incidents of detainees escaping from the police. To other news, the Medical Association of Jamaica has welcomed the decision by the Health Ministry to give booster shots to frontline healthcare workers. This comes after calls from stakeholders in public health for the government to start administering boosters. O'Shane Masters has more.
Associate Professor of Public Health at UTEC, Dr. Alveston Bailey, and President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Brian James, had called for the government to administer booster shots to persons who were calling for it. But that call was answered on Monday evening. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, speaking on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines, said the government has decided to proceed with administering COVID-19 booster shots and mixing different brands of vaccines. He says the administering of booster shots will begin in a few days.
We had an issue over the past few weeks with the inventory of Pfizer, which is the one that will be the most common booster recommended. But we did get some new stocks yesterday, I think, and we'll get some more at the end of this week or early next, which would have solved that problem. So it means that persons who have taken Pfizer, the second shot up 6 months prior, would now qualify and will be able to get a Pfizer as well as AstraZeneca. They could get a booster from Pfizer shot. And for the J&J, we are recommending anything over 2 months could get a second dose of the J&J or a Pfizer.
The ministry is recommending that a booster dose of the Pfizer vaccine be offered 6 months or more after the completion of the initial doses of Pfizer, AstraZeneca, or Johnson & Johnson. A booster dose of a Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine can be offered 2 months or more after completion of the initial dose. Dr. James says the decision by the Health Ministry is a very vital one at this point, especially to protect against a fourth wave of the COVID-19 virus.
This is going to be really very good, certainly because of the idea that there is waning immunity, or it has been demonstrated that there is waning of the immunity after you get at least sort of 8 or 12 months. Also, in preparation for the Omicron variant, that is a strategy that a lot of big countries are using to try and get boosters into the arms of most of their population. Our big problem is that most of our population is not vaccinated.
According to the Health Ministry, just over 18% of the population have been fully vaccinated against respiratory illness. Dr. James says to increase that percentage, there needs to be wider accessibility of the vaccine and stronger partnerships, especially with churches. He's also calling for preferential treatment for persons who are vaccinated. But President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, John Mafood, last month said that approach would be counterproductive. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Still on COVID, 18 new cases of the virus were recorded in the last 24 hours from 530 test samples. This brings the overall case count to 91,554. The positivity rate is 3.6%. Meanwhile, 1 death was also recorded, bringing the island's death toll to 2,411. 1 death is under investigation. 130 people remain hospitalized. 9 are in critical condition, while 10 are severely ill. Now there are 593 active cases on the island. The Health Ministry says 127 more people recovered from the respiratory illness in the last 24 hours. The total recovery since the onset of the pandemic is 63,223. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. The Nurses Association of Jamaica has served an ultimatum on the Finance Ministry as it steps up pressure to get a new wage deal for its members. The association has given the ministry until tomorrow to meet with it to discuss the matter. President Patsy Edwards-Henry told TVJ News that the ultimatum was included in a resolution passed by members of the association during a meeting on Saturday.
That resolution speaks to the disregard which the Ministry of Finance and Health, by extension, have shown to the nurses of Jamaica in not calling us to the table. While we were at the meeting, ironically though, I got a call from the Minister of Health who knew we were going into the meeting, and I also later on got a call from the Minister of Finance. The resolution gave an ultimatum for the December 8th, and when I spoke to Minister Clark, he agreed to meet with us.
Mrs. Edwards-Henry says the Finance Minister met with representatives of the NAJ yesterday, but the resolution still stands.
And we had frank, full discussions with the Minister, and we are to get a response later on.
Bittersweet. That's how some fish vendors are describing the opening of the Red Rose Market in downtown Kingston Monday, 9 years after it closed for refurbishing. The vendors say it's long overdue, but also timely as the Christmas season nears. Javon Keys reports.
After nearly a decade, the Red Rose Market in downtown Kingston is now open. The market, which is home to fish vendors, was closed to facilitate a series of upgrades. About 50 people are excited to occupy stalls on the inside. Several of the vendors were there for the official opening ceremony on Monday.
We know long Mary this happen. A long time already was open. Trust me, we're comfortable inside more than outside. No thief can't come in the car rob you. When them come pick all the vendor, the people that want to come buy, sometimes they get robbed outside.
Rosemary Buckley says she's been selling in the market since she was 19 years old. The closure caused the vendors to occupy sections of Spanish Town Road, lining the streets, which added to the traffic congestion.
I have some unruly people. I know about me, we stay inside. I know about the rest of people. I advise them for them stay in.
Kingston's Mayor Delroy Williams says funding was part of the delay.
We have said from day one that we can't just go and remove people who have spent their entire years vending downtown. And because of the unfortunate circumstances like the burning down of a market, that we are going to send them home and then wait until the market is finished 7 years after. No, we can't do that. So our approach has always been, we accommodate them as best as possible, as orderly as we can. We rebuild the structures and then we put them in and we remove them from the street.
He says work is also being done on the Jubilee and Redemption markets to be completed next year. Meanwhile, Minister of Local Government Desmond McKenzie is hoping that the refurbished facility will further drive business in downtown Kingston, even as the Christmas season is in earnest.
Every day in downtown Kingston, every minute, more than $2 million exchange hands in downtown Kingston on a daily basis. This is the lifeline of commercial activity in Jamaica. And the vendors in Curry, Sugarfoot, Queens, Redemption, you name it, Bend Down, here plays an important role in the economy of Jamaica.
Mr. McKenzie, who is also Member of Parliament for the area, is urging vendors to take care of the market, a plea that is being well received by vendors.
I am giving the vendors notice. This was not built for you to live in. It was constructed for you to ply your trade. And anybody, Mayor, who breach the protocols can't stay in there.
Then give it to them clean, it's on the whole, them take care of the market. Just take care of it same way. I like this setting.
Javon Keys, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute with Cody and Barrett.
In business news, the Jamaica Stock Exchange says although companies faced challenges during 2020, there has been a heightened compliance rate among companies listed on the main and junior markets. Managing Director of the Stock Exchange, Marlene Street Forest, gave an update at the recent Best Practices Awards.
An improvement in main and junior market listed companies' timely filing compliance for unaudited financial statements, which increased from 95% and 93% in 2019 to 96% and 97% in 2020.
And in business internationally, all New Yorkers will need to be vaccinated if they want to go to work. The city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, made the announcement on Monday. Public sector employees already have to be inoculated, but the mandate will now be extended to all private sector employees. The policy will take effect on December 27. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
We go now to the top regional and international stories with O'Shane Masters.
A new report has suggested that this generation of students now risks losing $17 trillion in lifetime earnings in present value, or about 14% of the current global gross domestic product, GDP, as a result of COVID-19 pandemic-related school closures. The report published by the World Bank, UNESCO, and UNICEF reveals that the impact is more severe than previously thought and far exceeds the estimates released in 2020. The State of a Global Education Crisis, A Path to Recovery report shows that in low and middle income countries, the share of children living in learning poverty could potentially reach 70% given the long school closures and the ineffectiveness of remote learning. On the international scene, 4 people were killed and 4 wounded in an explosion in Iraq's southern city of Basra after a motorcycle carrying explosives set fire to 2 vehicles in the city center. Police officials are still on the scene examining the cause of the explosion, adding that details are to follow in a later report. Basra's governor said in a voice note obtained by state news agency INA that the motorcycle was booby-trapped. And Spain's Public Health Commission on Tuesday approved the COVID-19 vaccination for 5 to 11-year-olds, just days after the health minister said that more than 3 million vaccine doses for children had already been ordered. Health Minister Carolina Darius told a press conference last Thursday that 1.3 million vaccine doses for children were due to arrive in Spain this month, with an additional 2 million such doses due to arrive in January. Spain has already fully vaccinated 89.4% of the population 12 years and older. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm O'Shane Masters.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Renardo Brown will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. Cricket West Indies Director of Cricket Jimmy Adams says he, along with the management staff, are willing to act on the recommendations from the recently held retreat after the failed T20 World Cup campaign in the UAE. The Windies won only 1 of the 5 group matches, and Adams says even with the disappointment, now is not the time to linger on the past.
The questions were asked and are continuing, we're continuing to peel back the layers. What exactly? You say this, we didn't get the performance in, if I'm being very general, in these specific areas. Okay, fine. Delving in to get more information, because what we want is how we want to minimize these issues going forward. So it's trying to get specifics. Where exactly, batting, bowling, fielding, what specifically were we able to do or not able to do?
Adams says that now is not the time for knee-jerk reactions and that plausible plans will be implemented ahead of the team's 2022 World Cup campaign. England's leading wicket-taker James Anderson has been rested for the first Ashes test against Australia, with Ollie Pope preferred to Johnny Bairstow in the 12-man squad. Spinner Jack Leach is included, as is Ben Stokes, who has not played any meaningful cricket since July. The match at the Gabba in Brisbane starts this evening at 7 Jamaica time. Seam bowler Anderson, who is 39, is not injured, but England are keen to manage his workload. England are looking to regain the Ashes, which Australia retained with a 2-2 draw in the UK in 2019. Football news now, as the battle for the top 2 spots in Zone E will come to a conclusion today in the Isadora Hostler Cup, with 2 games at 3 p.m. Glenmuir, defending champions Clarendon College, will once again take on Glenmuir, with only a point separating the 2 at the top of the table, with the 2019 winners on 13. In the other game to be played at Fogar Road, Lennon, who are on 11 points, play Edwin Allen on 10 points. With 2 spots to play for, Clarendon need to avoid defeat to secure group honours. A draw for Glenmuir might not be enough to secure second should Lennon or Edwin Allen win, or both teams end the day with a point. The winner of both games will confirm their place in the next round. And Spanish champions Atletico Madrid hold their Champions League fate in their hands as they travel to face FC Porto in their crucial Group B game today at 3 p.m. Atletico are currently bottom of the table on 4 points, 1 less than Porto, who are in second, as anything less than a win would see them miss the knockout stage. Both Atletico and Porto could miss out should they draw, and AC Milan, who are also on 4 points, beat Liverpool at home. Elsewhere at 3 p.m., Group C leaders Ajax will host Sporting, with both virtually through to the knockout round, while Dortmund will aim for a massive win over Besiktas, while hoping Sporting suffer a huge defeat to Ajax to progress. In Group D, leaders Real Madrid on 12 points and second place Inter Milan on 10 points will battle it out for the top spot at the Santiago Bernabeu. A Sheriff, who will end third in the group, will play Shakhtar Donetsk. In the early kickoffs, RB Leipzig host Manchester City, while Paris Saint-Germain are at home to Club Brugge. And finally, Tottenham's preparations for their pre-Christmas fixtures have been disrupted by a coronavirus outbreak at the club. It is understood a number of players and club staff have returned positive COVID-19 tests. More PCR testing is due to take place over the next 24 hours. Spurs are due to face Rennes in a crucial Europa Conference League game in London on Thursday before a Premier League trip to Brighton on Sunday. Under UEFA regulations, if they have 13 available players, including a goalkeeper from their 25-man A-list, they must fulfill the Rennes fixture, which they need to win to stand a chance of qualifying for the final 32. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Thanks so much, Renardo. We feel an excitement building in schoolboy football, both Manning and the Costa Cup. At the moment, getting down to the business end of the season now.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think the Zone E sums it all up. There's a team, Clarendon on 13, Glenmuir on 12, 11 for Lennon, and 10 points for Edwin Allen. So those two games today will be so crucial to determine the top two from that. And must say, big up to Garvey Maceo, you know why.
Why are you preempting me? The only unbeaten team in the competition so far. But that's just about it for the Midday News. Please join us at 7 for primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.